Okay, so good morning. What I want to do is to look at something that, we speak about this incredible trip that Yaakov goes. Vayeiztei Yaakov moves from Be'er Sheva, where he was. Vayelech Haran, he goes to Haran, and he's going to Haran ostensibly from his on his mother's side. He's going there because he's trying to find a wife. That's what the Rivka said. But we know that really part of the real reason he's running away from Esav. He's escaping Esav. He'll also find the wife. But obviously along the road, there are going to be a lot of events that are going to happen. And really, Vayeiztei is the story of the creation of Am Yisrael as we know them today. And that's why the Torah says, Vayeiztei Yaakov mi'Be'er Sheva Haran, he goes to Haran, Vayifga b'makom. And Vayifga is a strange word because Pogah means like come across something. So Vayifga b'makom, we're not sure what makom it is, but if you look under the word makom, it doesn't say b'makom, to a place. It's ba hamakom. It's to a specific place. And Rashi says, it doesn't say which place. It must be another place that has been mentioned elsewhere. That is the place where he arrives to. And then, so Rashi says, Hara Maria, and that's Hara Maria. How do we know that? Because when Avram Avinu was traveling, Hashem also didn't tell him exactly where he was going, but it says, Vayaret hamakom merachok, he saw the place from far. That was Hara Maria, where he was going to bring Yitzchak. And so therefore, Yaakov comes across the same place where all those incredible things happened with his father. And he arrives there. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know where the place is. But it's getting dark. So because it's getting dark, he decides he's going to have a shlof there. He doesn't want to travel when it's nighttime because there are a whole lot of discussions that Gemara speaks about. One shouldn't travel at night. He doesn't want to travel at night. So what does he do? The sun's coming. He's going to sleep there. And he takes from the stones of the place. That's how we translate it. And he puts it he puts them by his head. And he goes to sleep in that place. So Rashi, we know Rashi is most of the midrashim that we know about things come from the basics of Rashi. So Rashi says that he made it like a little bit of like a semicircle around his head. Why? Because we're worried about wild animals. So what does that mean? He's got a whole lot of way Rashi's understanding it is he's got a whole lot of stones that he's taken from that place and he's made them into a certain shape because he doesn't want them to in case the wild animals come, at least he'll have some type of protection. And then Rashi tells us the midrash. They start arguing with each other. So they're all arguing about where Yaakov is going to put his head. Miyad Asa'an Nakadosh Baruch Hu Evan Achat, and Hashem therefore made them all into one stone. And that's why it says later on that it says Vayikach et ha'evan asher samer shelo, that he took the stone that he put by his head. So Rashi is explaining that there was some type of supernatural event that happens. That there's a whole bunch of stones, and because of their desire to be connected to Yaakov in a very profound way, Hashem makes a miracle that they are all going to become one stone. Now, these midrashim are always going to be difficult because how do stones argue with each other? How do stones feel that they want someone else? How do stones become one? Those are difficult concepts. But the real question that we got to ask, and I'm not going to give you a cut on that, but the question we have to ask ourselves is, what is going on here? How come there are stones there? Where do those stones even come from? So this Sforno says the following, that Yaakov didn't know exactly where he was going. But he gets to this place, and there are Avnei HaMakom, Shayu Muchanot Sham L'Orchim Le'echov Ve'Lashevet Aleim. This was a place, it was a clear, the way he wants to explain it, was a clear place of a crossroad of going from one place to another place. And because of that, it was a crossroad. There were already stones that had already been set aside for visitors who had come to there because they wanted to sit, they want to eat something, maybe lie down. They were already there. So these stones are used to, the way the Sforno wants to explain, are used to having visitors. But the visitor that they have here is this great, incredible Yaakov Avinu. And Yaakov Avinu, they all want to be part of. And it's quite difficult to understand what the stones are about, but it's also difficult to understand why it uses the word Vayifka. Why does it mean that he happened upon Vayifka? So Rashi tells us Vayifka b'makom. He says, "Kamo upaga b'Yericho, upaga b'Daveshet." It just happens to be. V'Rabotenu, and he quotes from the Gemara that Chazal tell us that the word Vayifka means tefillah, right? And if that's the case, from here the Gemara learns that it is that we learn that to daven Ma'ariv we learn from Yaakov Avinu. Okay, so how come the Torah doesn't say Vayitpalel? Because we've seen so many different types of tefillah. We saw how Abraham davened. We saw how Yitzchak davened. Now we're going to see how and when Yaakov davens, and the word Vayifga. So Rashi says Lalamdecha shekivtza lo haaretz, that he had what's called kvitzas haderech, that kind of somehow the ground kind of like closed itself onto each other, so he got there quickly. It was much quicker than he thought. He just happened to arrive there. He sees it's nighttime and he starts to daven. That's the way Rashi seems to want to explain it. The Das Zekanim says that that it's difficult to understand. He says, what tefillah is that? That is Arvid. That is the Shmona Esrei itself, right? Because it can't be Shema. Because the Shema you can only say at nightfall, not when just before it becomes nighttime. So therefore, he's saying that that also a language of tefillah, but for some reason there's a separation between the Shema and the Amidah at night. And we know that there's a separation. How do we know that? Because we know that Tfilat Arvit, that the Ma'ariv davening in the writings of Chazal, Tfilat Arvit is a reshut. It's not obligatory. It's kind of like it's a choice in the original writings. Now, because everybody's taken it on, so now we know it's an obligation. But it's different from the saying of the Shema in the morning, and the connection of the Shema and the Amidah with the Shema in the morning. They're totally connected. Whereas in the evening it's a little bit different, to the extent that, for example, if a person comes late to shul at Ma'ariv and you've missed the brachos of Kriya Shema, and the person and they're starting to say the Amidah, then one should say the Amidah together with everybody, and then go back and say the brachos of Kriyat Shema, and that's only in Ma'ariv. In Shachrit, you can't do that. In Shachrit, you have to go through the process from the beginning of the brachos of Kriyat Shema all the way to the end, including the Shemona Esrei. So we can see that there's a differentiation between Shema and the Amidah. The Chasam Sofer tells us something fascinating. If we understand that initially, the way we want to understand, at least according to Rashi from the Midrash, that there were different stones. And all these stones were arguing, and eventually they became one. And we see that they became one because it says that Vayashkem Yaakov Baboker, Yaakov got up early in the morning. Vayikach et ha'evan asher shamer rashotav. He took this one stone, that stone that there's many stones that become one. Vayasem otam matzeva. And he made it into a matzeva, vayitzok shemen al rosha, and he pours oil onto it, he anoints it, he makes it into something special, and it becomes a place of tefillah. Comes along the Chasam Sofer, and the Chasam Sofer says we need to learn something important out of this event that happens. So he says the following: that why is it that it was so important for us to learn about the stones? I mean, it's very nice that they had the stones and he made them to matzava and they're fighting with each other. He says, no, it's not so simple. Lefiz, he says, Nire mizeh, shifat Yaakov v'gila gam lenashav shaya lo yud bet banim, dafka. He said, the Chasam Sofer says that he took 12 stones here. He took 12 stones, and because he took 12 stones, it became apparent to him that it was there at that time, that it was revealed to him, which he reveals later to his wives, that he's going to have 12 sons, V'yasu kulam goy echad. Why do they become one? Because they are at some point in time later going to become a goy echad, one nation. It says v'hinei min az. From this point in time, sanei akadosh baruch hu matzeva. He says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu hates any type of matzeva. Adataya tamatzeva me'even echad ahuva. Says any type of matzeva from this point, for a single stone, HaKadosh Baruch Hu hates from this point in time. And until this point in time was fantastic. Why? Because every time a person brought one stone, it indicated the love of that one person. Abraham was one, Yitzchak was one, Yaakov is one. He also brings this one stone, and this stone says the Chasam Sofer, this one single stone is the last time that one single stone can be brought as an indication of a relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. From now on, the Mizbeach has to come from many different stones. That they all become made into one. Binyan, through some type of building. Why through some type of building? Now we know on Shabbos we say, that all of our children are limudei Hashem, they learn Hashem, v'rav kulam b'naich, al tikrei b'naich, don't call them our children, ela b'naich, our builders. Why are they called our builders? Says the Chasam Sofer, hu b'naich mechubarim. Because what it means, what do builders do? Builders take different stones and they build them up together and they make it into one thing. And that's what we need to do, says the Chasam Sofer. We're going to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're going to take the disparate parts of the community and bring them all into one single edifice. That's why there's such a problem with Parish Min HaTzibur. A person who separates himself from the community, says the Chasam Sofer, likach lo derech la'atzmoi. He takes himself his own way, his own derech. Afilu l'shem shamayim, even if it is l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven. That's a matzeva. That is the thing when one person goes on their own route without building community, without bringing the people together, even if it is l'shem shamayim. Hashem doesn't want that. Hashem doesn't like that. Hashem doesn't love that at all. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants a matzeva that's built out of many stones, of all the different stones, of different shapes and sizes. And that's why this is such an important limud, such an important learning for us. Why do we care where Yaakov found himself with stones and that the one stone became the 12 stones became one? And all these, why should we care about that? You know why? Because that's what we as Am Yisrael are learning from Yaakov, that the 12 stones have to become one. And from now on, a single stone is not good enough. We have to make sure that we bring it all together, that we build it together into a single matzah.